Tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Welcome to Pulp Mythos and the Kurt Russell-A-Thon. I'm here with Spencer and I'm Brian, and we will be reviewing Kurt Russell movies all month long, August 2020. And today we are talking about Escape from L.A. If you've not seen it yet, or well, I should say listen to it, our Escape from New York review is already up on the channel, so go check that out. You can also check out Soldier and Stargate. And we have more Kurt Russell movies coming next week. Please subscribe and hit that bell so you can be notified of all the content we have when it drops. We're trying to hit 100 subs by September 1st. We are at 95 as of this recording. Please help us achieve that goal. Lots of content on the channel. We're doing Lovecraft Country every Sunday evening. We'll be reviewing The Boys. Lots of content planned for October, November, and December. So definitely hit that subscribe button so you can be notified of that stuff. As I said, we're talking about Escape from L.A. And Spencer, what is your history with this film?
I saw it, like we were talking about in the New York review. I saw Escape from New York on TV, like the TNT or some other bullshit, and it was coming to theaters. And me and my friend, we used to go to the movies and buy tickets to some PG-13 movie and go sneak into all the rated R movies.
Yeah.
And this was one of those that we did that too. So I remember, playing Primal Fear on the arcade outside in the movie theater, and then going and sneaking into that. And I don't remember what we bought tickets to, but we did it a couple different times where we bought tickets to go see like Apollo 13, but went and saw Judge Dredd or something like that. So this was one of those things, or one of those times. And, I saw Escape from New York on TV, so they bleeped out a lot of stuff. So when I was coming into Escape from LA, I was not expecting what I was about to see. So I was in for a treat, to say the least.
Yeah, LA is batshit crazy, and I love it. Yeah, I saw it in theaters. My dad just loves science fiction, action, horror, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he took me to see Terminator 2. I was like in the second grade. I remember, once I was old enough to walk, he was like, "All right, you're my movie buddy." And so, he would take me to see all these kinds of movies. I remember going to see The Rock in theaters. Love that movie. So I saw all these, crazy movies in theaters. Sudden Impact. Remember that one? The Van Damme movie?
Yeah.
I saw that shit in theaters. So yes, I saw Escape from LA in theaters. And I remember absolutely loving it when I saw it. It was just so insane. And I remember talking to friends about it. It's like, "Oh man, did you see that movie?" And most of them hadn't at that point. But yeah, I saw it several years before I saw New York. I didn't see New York till many years later. And if you want to know my opinions on New York, you can go check it out on the channel. It's up, the review for it. So this, as New York was directed by John Carpenter, who did films like The Thing and Halloween, The Fog, and the Escape from New York and L.A. films. And like all of his movies, he not only directs them, he usually co-writes them or he writes them, and he works on the soundtracks. He's a big part of the soundscape, if you will, of the film.
His writing credits are just as long, if not longer, than his directorial credits.
He's a guy similar to I guess I'd say like a Tarantino, in that he's all in with his productions. Whatever he's working on, he wants to sort of have his fingers in every part of it. Now I think Tarantino's a little more anal about it. He writes every line of dialogue. Carpenter, I don't think necessarily does that, but he is very much involved in the whole process of what the film is.
Well,
which is cool.
Tarantino's not real big on ad-libbing or anything.
No.
He's very, I wrote it to be
Oh.
this way. You are going to do it this way, like this. But I think that Carpenter's probably a little less of an asshole. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of them personally. Yeah. So, except for Jordan Peele. Me and him are best friends.
Are you and Bill friends?
Yeah.
Kurt Russell co-wrote this film. You know, he had input. And
Jesus, that just shows me how crazy that fucker is.
Yes, because I think if I remember, there was an interview way back in the day. I remember seeing where I think L.A. had just had an earthquake. I don't know what year. They had a pretty big earthquake in the 90s, I believe.
All the years. Jesus.
Yeah. And I guess he had a conversation with John Carpenter and was just basically like, hey, man, I guess there had been buzz or, talk of one day doing a sequel to Escape from New York. And because of what had happened in L.A., I guess the idea came out. And they were just like, yeah, we should do this. And I'm not basing this on the interview I read recently. This is something I remember seeing like many, many years ago on like the E Network or some shit. So
VH1 True Hollywood Stories or something.
Yeah, basically. So yeah. Hold on, I'm looking something up. Because I want to say there were 3 people that wrote Escape from L.A. And Russell was one of them.
Let's see if I can beat
Yep, there it is. So yeah, Kurt Russell helped. He co-wrote Deborah Hill, who's involved in like every John Carpenter production ever. Like she's his partner essentially. So her, Kurt Russell, and John Carpenter all wrote Escape from L.A.
And Nick Castle and Deborah Hill.
Well, they worked on yeah. So the movie, the plot in this one. So I'm assuming you've seen Escape from New York. If you're watching this, it's the exact same plot, basically, with a few differences. I think the world is in a much worse place at the beginning of this film, and then definitely by the end of this film. So, according to the IMDb plot summary, Snake Plissken is once again called in by the United States government to recover a potential doomsday device from Los Angeles, now an autonomous island where undesirables are deported. So in this film, basically, in the New York, the world had reached a point where just crime was such a big deal that they just basically created a centralized prison island. This point, things have shifted. Now you have a president who has declared himself sole ruler, lifetime appointment. He's moved the capital to Virginia, I think they said in the film.
I want to say that's what they said, but I'm not 100% sure. Some southern state.
He has essentially he turns the country into a theocracy. It is very religious run. There's a moral code that goes out, and basically, if you don't fit within the parameters of that code, you're shipped to L.A. And L.A. is basically in this film is destroyed from a massive earthquake. It's separated into its own island, and they basically take away your citizenship and deport you there.
I wonder if I know this is separate, so L.A. is its own thing and all this stuff, but I wonder if New York still exists at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like the prison. Like I don't like if they keep that as a prison and then like LA is a moral kind of place. So like people that didn't really commit crimes but they feel are morally corrupt.
Because they're shipping anyone and everyone, including children and everybody can get shipped to LA, where New York was more like just criminals. The LA the president has also created basically a militarized police force that runs the country. And there's also a lot of weird political things where there's other countries looking to invade the United States. There's little coalitions that have formed between other nations. They're having beef with countries in South America, with Cuba. Just a lot of shit's going on at the beginning of the film. And this time it's the president's daughter, not the president, that is in LA. And I wrote up a little summary to quickly get through this because it's a simple premise, but it's a little convoluted in this film because there's a few
Yes.
more pieces to it. So the president's daughter, she goes to LA to hook up with a guy named Cuervo Jones. I wrote that line. Here you go. She stole the black box, which is a device and a chip that can control satellites created by the U.S. that can send an EMP blast anywhere on Earth, destroying all electronics, including batteries, permanently. Also, a war is about to start, and that's where the film opens. So they need somebody to go in and retrieve the weapon, the doomsday, the device that controls the satellites. And they even give him the order to actually kill the president's daughter, which is pretty cold. And it's going to be Snake Plissken yet again.
He looked like Ernesto the Shea.
Yeah.
Which is funny because in the 90s, he was a huge figure for whatever reason.
Yeah, he was. Clearly, that was.
Seen him on like a bunch of shirts that they sold at Hot Topic or Gadzooks.
Yeah, for a while, you're right. That was like a big shirt. And yeah, that's exactly what he sort of looked like. The running gag in the first film, there was a running gag that everyone who met Snake Plissken said, "Oh, I thought you were dead." In this film, they say, "I thought you were taller." And yeah, it's just sort of a running gag. In the first film, these little bombs, little micro bombs, are put in his neck. This one, he's infected with a virus, which I'll go ahead. I mean, we're talking about the whole film. You find out it's bullshit. It's just the flu.
Which is great.
Yeah, he has a timer and everything, and he's told if he doesn't get the antidote by a certain time, he'll die. But it's all bullshit. It's just a flu. I like the whole like James Bond-esque scene. There's sort of one in the first film, but this one it's a little more elaborate, where he's getting outfitted with his gear, his weapons, his little gadgets, and everything. Yeah, I thought that whole scene was really cool.
Well, this one, like you said, the whole James Bond and the holograms, and that came into play a bunch of times. The way they're able to project stuff and do holograms. No, don't drink out of the toilet.
I was going to make a joke. Say, which kid is that?
It's the baby.
Yeah. Is it McGruff or
yes?
Coop? Does McGruff do that?
Yeah, he does now.
Is that his thing?
Yeah, like if you leave a lid open, he's like, I'm thirsty.
Damn.
And it feels like I always think that some kid pissed all over the floor, and it's not. It's the fucking dog went and had a midnight drink.
That's horrible. It's like one of two scenarios. Either one of the kids pissed all over the floor, or the dog has a belly full of toilet water.
Yeah, neither scenario is great.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, this is a bad situation.
Well, and the best part is he's gonna try and lick your face later.
Oh,
it's like, hey, I just licked the shit stain out of that toilet bowl over there.
Jesus. All right.
Anyway,
I'm leaving all this in, by the way.
That's okay. I don't care.
We're funny.
The whole hologram sequence, and then the different kind of guns. All of that kind of back to back, like you said, was very Bond-esque. And then he like tries to fight a couple of the people, and he's swinging and missing at the president, and it's a hologram, which comes into play later in the movie too.
Yeah, those are all little foreshadowing moments that play out. So in the first film, he uses a glider to enter the city, and he lands on one of the World Trade buildings. And this, he uses a sub, It's probably the only part in the whole movie that if I was going to gripe about anything, would be this. There's two reasons. Reason number one, it's not the ridiculous factor because there are way more ridiculous things that occur in the film, which I love. It's more so some of the effects are a little more dated. It's early, sort of that early computer effects look, and it it shows its date. And second, the little Universal Jaws nod. It's an innocent little thing to throw in there, but I don't know. It irritates me.
Well, yeah, because it felt like the preview to a ride or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I know it was done as a fun little thing, and no, it's not a serious movie at all. But I don't know, things like that bug me, especially when they stick out like that. I like Easter eggs. Don't get me wrong. I just like them when they're more subtle. And that one was pretty much in your face.
Yeah, they, it's like Universal slipped them a couple 100,000 or a couple mil, and they were like, "Hey, can you just make this whole scene revolve around Universal Studios?"
When he gets there, I mean, there's so much crazy stuff that happens in this movie. Let me run through some of the characters we encounter, and then we'll go into some of the crazy set pieces. So Steve Buscemi is a major prominent character in this film. He's essentially Cabby. He's somewhat of a variation of Cabby from New York.
I thought he was Cabby was kind of had some redeeming qualities. Steve Buscemi's character had none.
No, you're right. He plays Map to the Stars Eddie. Yeah. He's because you're right. He's sort of that Cabby character, but he's out for himself. He's a complete asshole. He screws Snake over multiple times. He's not to be trusted, basically. Peter Fonda.
The slightest.
Peter Fonda has a reoccurring role where he's just this cool surfer. He's just hanging out, just chilling. I would assume they shot all his stuff probably in a day. Because
he's only in I think 2 or 3 scenes.
Yes. The most elaborate scene would have been the surf scene, which we'll talk about in a minute, but just because of the effect. But yeah, he's only in a couple scenes. Then we have Pam Grier plays a character in the film. She's in the first film you have Brain, in this you have Hershey. You have the president's daughter is Utopia.
Yes.
I don't know why that made me laugh watching the movie, but yeah, the fact that the character's name is Utopia, that was pretty funny. And then we have Bruce Campbell playing the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills, and he is
crazy looking fucker.
Yeah. You discover that there's a lot of people in Beverly Hills that, because they've had so much plastic surgery and they're not able to maintain it, that their bodies are like falling apart. So they have to go find, new people who come to the island and basically harvest their body parts. And he's like the main guy. And in this sequence, he encounters a character who's yet again another sort of throwback to New York. In New York, he meets this woman in this diner, and she's killed by these sewer people. In this film, he meets a woman hiding in these bushes, and they're captured by Bruce Campbell and his crew. And I have her name written down. I got it from IMDb.
It's the chick from Hot Shots.
Yeah, yes, that's her. It's like Taslima, but he ends up encountering her, and it's actually an important. It's very strange. They escape Bruce Campbell. There's this very interesting moment of dialogue, and it really felt like Carpenter or whoever wrote the scene, maybe it wasn't him, really had a lot of negative shit to say about the world. like he's talking to her, and she's basically talking about how she views the world, and she views it that L.A. is the only real free place, because he tells her, well, why don't you try to leave? And he even says, screw, leave the U.S., go somewhere else, go south or go somewhere else. And she basically is like, the whole world is shit, not just here. The entire world is shitty. LA is about the only free place there is, and they refer to it as a dark paradise. And then shortly after that, she's killed. She's gunned down by some kids. And he gives this very just distraught look that he's upset. And I feel that that is the moment that he decides to do what he does at the end of the movie. Like the decision he makes at the final scene of the movie, I think you could connect it back to this scene. And maybe I'm looking too deep into this movie, but that's how I feel.
Maybe a little bit too deep, but I don't think that, on the surface, some of those things that happen, I think are meant to be important. Whether or not the whole movie revolves around that scene or not, I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that it's not too far-fetched that that was the reason that he did what he did.
So some of the set pieces, we have a sequence on a motorcycle that involves Kurt Russell's on the bike, and he's chasing down. There's other motorcycles, there's trucks, and there's horses, and it's just a really cool scene. It's not that radical, but it is funny seeing horses, trucks, and motorcycles all in the same sequence.
It kind of reminded me of Raiders of the Lost Ark. No,
yeah,
Last Crusade.
Last Raiders. Crusade. Oh yeah. There. Oh yeah, there's that one. There's a lot of great chase sequences in that movie. Now that you mention it, but yeah, it's just a really cool sequence. It's one of the first major action scenes in the film. Your favorite scene? There's the basketball scene.
Holy shit! Like that was by far. Like I couldn't stop laughing. Like I rewound it, watched it a couple times. I was dying because the whole gladiatorial thing, you saw different people doing different stuff. There's people fighting to the death. And I was like, okay, similar to the first movie where he had to, be in the ring and have a spiked baseball bat. I was like, okay, so what are they going to do? And then as they're walking up, they're showing this basketball game and then they shoot everybody. So I was like, okay, so what's the premise of this basketball game? You have 10 seconds to score. You have to go down to each end and shoot, and there's no 3-pointers. And I was like, what? So then the sequence begins with him shooting a layup in this awkward ass layup at that. Like it wasn't even like this graceful NBA style. It was some goofy looking, like middle school basketball looking fundamental layup. And then he starts getting behind and he starts chucking it farther and farther away. So the 8-point one, he's like half court. He runs down. He's got like 2 seconds left and does like a baseball throw.
Yeah.
and makes it. And then I don't remember the guy's name, Guevara or whatever they called him, gets super pissed.
Corvo.
Because yeah. I was thinking of Che or Chi. I don't know. But, he gets super pissed and then tries to take him out, which is just funny that he was this dorky looking dude was able to, beat him at a basketball thing. It was.
It's funny because you think back and you watch the scene, like you said, he had again this mirrors New York with the wrestling match instead it's basketball, and you think, well, why the hell would they make it a basketball thing instead of like a fighting thing? But you think about it, this was 1996. We're coming off of the second Dream Team Olympics in 1996. Basketball was a big deal,
Yes.
And so literally you're around the time of as I said, the Dream Team. Yeah, and all that stuff. So 96 was a big deal for basketball. So that it when you think about it in that context, it makes complete sense that it was in the film.
But
and then you have
if they would have had anybody other than Kurt Russell's short ass shooting a full court shot. Where did he pick that up at? When he was robbing banks in the first one, or like he became this basketball star? Like,
well, that plays into the next crazy sequence. After he escapes, he he finds himself in this trench, and because there's another earthquake that occurs. There's going to be a tsunami, big waves coming in, and he's stuck down there with Peter Fonda. And so basically, he's like, "Look, dude, it's coming. There's no way out. We got to surf it." And so now all of a sudden, he's this badass surfer.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
once again, you go. He's from like New York area. This is where he did all this stuff. So now you have this character who is, this New York guy, and he did all these things. There's not a whole lot of big wave surfing there in New York City.
he launches off the surfboard onto Steve Buscemi's car to fight him because he's pissed at him. And what's crazy again is you go back like a scene or two where he gets shot in the leg by Steve Buscemi, which is another throwback to New York. So now for the rest of the film, Snake has a bullet wound in his leg and he has to walk with a limp. And it's in the same leg, by the way, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah. So lots of the movie L.A. does a lot of callbacks to New York. Yet, to be honest, if you really think about all of them, if you never saw New York, it wouldn't be strange. Like nothing stands out as odd as far as not in on the joke, if you will. Like it all works for the film.
It works fine. And you think about, throwing it back. It was what, 15 years later that they did this movie?
So, yeah.
Because I think this one was 96 or 97.
You're right.
Yeah, so it's like 15 years later that they just decided to do this movie.
Yeah. The craziest scene in the whole movie, hands down, is the ending battle. I'm going to try and explain it, but it's just insane. Like I said, he goes back to Hershey, played by Pam Grier, and him and Steve Buscemi's out there too on the damn glider, and their whole crew. And they decide they're going to attack because they're still trying to get that weapon back. And Corvo Jones has it. They're going to attack, and I'm assuming that was supposed to be Disneyland or some kind of Disney park.
I think so, because it was, they had the castle and those kind of things.
Yeah, they never say it outright. Yeah.
Which is even crazier that they're doing like this attack. They show Universal initially, but then they're attacking Disney. So, which if you've ever been to any of the Universal like horror nights, I went down to one when I was in Disney World, and they had a whole sketch. It's this nighttime where they do all the, like Disney has the Indiana Jones thing. Well, where they do like a live action play and they show you stunts and all kinds of shit. Well, the Universal has one too, but the horror nights, they had, the year I was there, they did Bill and Ted, and it was the first year they were introducing those like fast pass armband things at Disney. So they were making fun of it the whole time. So Universal always takes digs at Disney, like all the time. It's funny.
Yeah, it was very obvious. They never outright say Disney, but it's pretty clear that that's supposed to be like a Disney park, and they attack it, and that that's what happens. The sequence is just crazy. Like they come in flying on these hang gliders, and then they start dropping bombs and shooting guns, and I mean it's just the way it's shot's wild. I guess they put, I don't know how they hook those things on some kind of wires, or I don't know, and moved them around. I'm sure it was a pain in the ass, however they did it.
Did you ever go on the Soarin' ride at Disney?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it was.
They just use soaring.
I don't know that, but that's what it looked like to me.
So yeah, they're flying around, they're blowing stuff up. So a helicopter comes in, and they're able to get on the helicopter, steal it. They get the black box, and Corvo shoots a rocket. I think it's him who does it. He shoots a rocket and ends up killing everyone in the back seat. So like Hershey and her whole crew, they all get blown up. Steve Buscemi jumps off the damn thing and lands on the ground. He's okay. And so the only survivors are Snake and Utopia, the president's daughter. She's in there. And Then, oh yeah, was it Steve Buscemi that who shoots the Cuervo? I think it's him.
Yeah, he's shooting from the back of the helicopter,
Yeah,
and he shoots him in the chest, and he's like, "I got him," and then he still gets the bazooka
and
shot off, and
yeah,
he's like, "Oh
uh,
shit," and he jumps out.
yet again another nod to the original film. All those characters are blown up. Almost all the characters were blown up at the end of New York. So they get back to the mainland, and he hides the real device on Utopia. I said, no, he keeps it. He gives her the fake one. Yeah,
Yes.
and so they end up coming, the president and his people, and they find her and they take the device. And so they basically there's an invading force heading, I think, from Cuba that's about to attack, I guess, Florida, and they're going to fire this EMP weapon and disable their stuff. And then all of a sudden they realize that they don't have the right device. Snake has it. Well, what they also don't realize is Snake is using a hologram. It's not him standing there; he's far away, and so he takes the device and basically inputs the world code, which happens to be 666, and
Which I thought was fantastic.
yeah, and basically, what that would do is disable all electronic devices on the entire planet, and you'd essentially have to start from scratch, and you'd have to re-engineer everything to work. So it's a great little scene
because they're leading you to believe that this EMP not only is going to disrupt everything for a few minutes, but completely render it 1,000% useless for eternity, which is such horseshit. But
there's a lot of
there's a lot of horseshit
oddities and the way this whole system even works. But so yeah, that's what they allude to. So they basically tell them, they're like, Snake, if you push the button, you'll put us back in the Dark Ages. And he's just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. So he pushes the button, and it ends with him lighting us. He finds some cigarettes and he lights them. And similar to the first film, he walks off. Where in the first film, all he does is make the president look like an asshole. In this film, he puts humanity back into the Dark Ages.
Which I think would be a great third movie. Basically have, like, you can bring back dinosaurs and all kinds of I mean, it's already crazy as shit anyway. Might as well do like a crossover with Jurassic Park or something.
Yeah, well, maybe the government was engineering some kind of creatures or dinosaurs, and they get loose, and who knows?
They got to bring in Snake to save the president's nephew who got dropped inside of one of the Tyrannosaurus Rex cages or some shit. Oh.
The movie is, like I said, it's insane. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening, and yeah, there is some political messages, and there's some definite commentary on the state of the world, where I think Carpenter and maybe Russell thought the world was headed, and and a very bleak ending. The way it ends is almost, like I said, maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but it's almost as if he's saying we should just start over. there is no fixing it. We literally almost have to start over.
It seems very much like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. A lot of the stuff he does is sort of depressing. I mean, you look at Halloween, he created a character that has no. You can go back and look like Friday the 13th. Jason at least was a character that was mistreated when he was a child, and which led to his death. Blah 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 blah. Michael Myers was just an evil, and the film goes to push that idea that Michael Myers is literally just evil. He was born fine, his family was fine, they were lived an okay life, but he was just an evil person who wanted to do evil things. It's a very dark way to look at a child, and yet that's what he wrote or what he came up with. And then you go look at even The Thing. The ending of The Thing, famously, they're stuck there. They're going to die. There's no way they're escaping. It's a very bleak ending. and then look at something like this, where it's like, yeah, no, to hell with humanity. So yeah, Carpenter's a very pessimistic individual.
Well, and it's funny too because he didn't just direct these, thinking that maybe somebody else wrote these movies and he just that's his forte as far as directing goes. No, he wrote these. So not only are these his genre that he likes to direct, he also really believes some of this shit because he writes all of it.
Yeah,
It like leaks in a little bit to, how he feels.
yeah, I absolutely. I think these are. Yeah, he's having fun with making these movies, but at the end of the day, he's still also saying a few things about how he views people and society and where things may be headed. So there you go. Any other thoughts on Escape from L.A.?
No, well, I always say no, and then I always say something, but
I hate when we also do Lovecraft Country on Sunday nights. So if you're interested in that show and you're watching it, definitely check out our reviews, which go up, within a couple hours after the episode. But there's nothing more frustrating. We'll have a in-depth discussion. This last one, the first episode, I thought we talked about everything you could talk about. We talked for like 40 plus minutes. And then afterwards, I start getting texts from Larry, who was on the show, and things he thought of after we got off. And I was like we're not reshooting, we're not adding. It's too late. But it is frustrating when you finish recording and then you're like, shit, I should have brought that up, or I was thinking about this.
The what I was thinking of is the hang glider scene again. There's like I want to say he's like a balding dude with a mustache. I am like 99.9% sure he's in Die Hard. And that's all I can think of the rest of the time. I'm like, wasn't he in Die Hard? But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to look.
What I say, you can probably find out, maybe.
Yep, I'm going to look. Escape from L.A. Look, I was already on the page. Because he's a weird looking dude. There he is. Saigon Shadow was his name in the movie.
Jesus.
He was in They Live.
Okay.
He was in Sons of Anarchy. Now I'm trying to go back. Hardball, Hard to Kill, Hyperspace. They Live, Party Hardest.
Bunch of cool shit.
Yes, Big Trouble Little China.
Hell yeah.
He was in Knight Rider, Rainbow. He was in First Blood.
I'm about to say which the first one?
2. He was also in The Crow.
Damn.
That's what I was saying. Like, he looked super familiar. He was in Blade. He was one of the henchmen in Blade. That's
okay. Hell yeah. It's like all the shit I like.
Yes.
Oh, that would be a great Wesley Snipes-a-thon. I love Snipes. All right. Yeah. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.